Welcome to Not Factory Approved. Today I'm involved with a fifth wheel. Not what I had in mind, but sometimes you get a surprise. So my wife and I lived and traveled in this for about 2.5 years. We went to BC near Whistler. Beautiful spot. Found a campground for $12 a night unserviced. So we set up camp. Pulling in, I discovered there was a stump at the side of the road covered by vegetation. And even though I was doing less than 5 miles an hour, it bent the rear axle real nice. So the trailer was unusable. So the nearest place that could fix it was 150 clicks away. In the campground, I took out the axle, hauled it off, waited the day, got it back, rebuilt unit, replaced axle, put it in. Well, one thing happened. Being in the campground, kind of really short on tools. The fellow that rebuilt the axle and replaced the tube told me that this is the camber, this is the way the axle has to go. I don't think he realized that I'd flipped the axles so that it actually had to go the other way. And since I didn't have a level or a straight bar to check it with, I put it in the wrong way. Quite by accident. So I'll show you how to check that. If you look carefully there, you can see that the wheels are at different angles. It wasn't obvious in the campground, and then I wondered about it as we were driving down the road, but it's like sometimes it's okay and sometimes it's not. It's really hard to tell until tire wear started to be an issue. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take the axle out, take the brake drums off, flip the axle, put the brake drums back on and the wheels back on. That should take care of it. So I'll show you how to check it. This is the rear axle that I'm at now, and this is the one that's proper. So you need the longest straight edge you can get, fits on it. And then you can see we have a gap on each end, meaning it's high in the middle, which is correct. So as it gets loaded, it tends more to vertical for the wheels. And when it's unloaded, it sits with a slight camber as opposed to decambering. So now I will go around and check the front one. So here's the front axle. Take my 4-foot level, which is pretty straight. You can see there's a gap. Hopefully you can see that. So this one is going the wrong way. Fortunately, they are made so that they can go in either way. These brackets accept the spring plate and then U-bolts clamp it in place. So that's what I got to do. Because I had already lifted this trailer, that's where the confusion came in. Newer pickups, you have to flip, they call flipping the axles so it rides higher, because the bed of a new pickup is always higher than an old one, as evidenced over there. That their heap is much closer to the ground than that one out there. So I will take things all apart and go from there. So I have to raise up this end of the trailer to get the wheel up off the ground, take off the wheels, etc. So one thing to keep in mind when you flip an axle, a lot of people do it wrong, which is they just move the axle to the bottom and they flip it over so that they get this problem, which is low in the middle, and then the wheels are decambered, which is not what you want, because that just gets worse the more you load up the trailer. You have to make sure that you have the high point in the middle, not the low point in the middle, and then you'll have the proper angle. Here goes. Now let's see what surprises await. Just cover this up over here. We got a piece of seed in there. Brake linings are getting down, but there's still 1/8 of an inch left there, and they're not riveted, so that's okay. Seen worse. It's a little bit scored, but everybody likes to score. More bad jokes coming. now we got this here. I'll grab some wire so once I take this off I can hang it up. There's that side done. All I found was a bunch of spiders. These are the back nuts. These bolts through here go through and bolt onto there. So now I just do the same on the other side. Undo the U-bolts up here and flip it around. Put it back up. It should be obvious with the rust underneath here compared to up top where it's against the spring, I would think, but just in case, I've marked it both sides. What is presently the top will soon be the bottom, I think. Since I don't remember what these were torqued to, I broke them free with the ratchet and then turned them back to where they were, and then I gradually took up the snap torque wrench to the click torque wrench up to the point where it would start to move the bolt, and I kept adjusting until I found out that it's roughly 70 pounds. My chart for this kind of bolt, 1/2 inch fine thread, says a maximum of 90 foot-pounds for a grade 5 bolt. These might be grade 8, but I doubt it. They're probably grade 5. So 70, it probably was a little bit loose. So I'll see how they react when I go to torque them up. But somewhere between 70 and 85, I would guess, would be suitable. So final check, going to make sure everything's seated properly. Bolts should all be even, each side. These U-bolts are a little bit shorter, so they don't have a spring washer on them because I didn't want a recess left there. But they work. There's been no problem with them. So tightening those up evenly as possible. Make sure there's no gap underneath, that all the pins line up. So the leaf spring in this type of suspension, the leaf spring has a pin that drops down. It starts here, it goes right through, and the brackets have a hole in them, and those have to sit on that pin. And in this case, this is the plate that holds the shock absorber that has to go in between. So that looks good. Same on both sides. I flipped it. So now to clean everything up and put it back together. Torque the bolts. I'm going to try at 80 pounds, see how they feel. Foot-pounds, that is. And if they start to stretch, then you can feel them get a little softer. It definitely will not go any further than that. So you have to. It's good to do these things up with a torque wrench, or at least a ratchet, rather than an impact gun. One thing to watch for is that there's no holes. This axle has grooves cut in it, 4 of them. So I've sealed that with butyl caulking. That's what was in there before. It doesn't tend to shrink like silicone, and it lasts longer. So put that in, and now I'll put the hub on. One thing I just noticed, which means you probably don't have to worry about sealing inside with the butyl caulking. This axle is different than the one in the front. So it doesn't have those holes, but it does have these scoops right here. So it's picking up all manner of stuff. Oh, didn't need to do the butyl caulking. So here's the front axle. When I flipped it over with the weight of the trailer, it was pretty much neutral. Didn't have the decamber that it had before, so it was obviously the right way around, but it was pretty much neutral. Whereas if you can see at the back, it's got an arc to it. And so what I did, now we have the arc, see there, it's over 1/8 of an inch. Likewise here, over 1/8 of an inch. And that's pretty close to what the back one is. So I'm going to leave it there. But what I used was my 4-ton jack. Jacked it up under the middle, made sure I was central. Compressed the suspension, and then gave it some more cranks until I noticed an arc. And then checked it, and I did that 3 or 4 times before I finally got enough bend in it that I was happy. So shouldn't have tire wear problems anymore on the inside of the tires. And I did also find that that back wheel on the passenger side, for on the right hand side of the trailer, was not adjusted properly. So I tightened that up. Had to shim it to get the right tension. But there it is. So we shouldn't have a tire wear problem anymore. Remember, if you're going to try and bend it with a jack, do it in stages. Because if you go too far, it is not a good day. It will be very hard to get it back.